We are up to Daf Tzadik Hey, and the Gemara begins about 7 lines from the top of the page. We're still discussing here Sanhedrin, and this is the end of the pasuk that we were discussing previously. And it says over there, "My oid hayoim b'noiv lamoid." What does it mean in the pasuk? We're about 7 lines from the top of the page. Kumlan abla Gemara Daf Tzadik Hey. Oid hayoim b'noiv lamoid. That he's still standing by the day in the city of Noiv. What in the world does that mean? Says the Gemara. The pshat is as follows. Omar Huna. There was a city called Noiv that when David HaMelech fled Shaul's wrath, and he went to the city of Noiv. It's a city of Kohanim. Achimelech there was in charge. So he went to the city of Noiv and he asked them for refuge and to give him food. They gave him bread and they gave him water. In that city was also Doeg Adoimi. And when Doeg saw that, he went and reported it to Shaul that they harbored a refugee, or they harbored a fugitive, rather, David HaMelech. And then Shaul went and wiped out the entire city of Noiv. So the Gemara now says, and remember, the story of Sanhedrin, when he lost all the soldiers, happened on Erev Pesach. And Erev Pesach is a day when the Kohanim are busier than any other day of the year, as we know. And if you look at say about Tradah, the Gemara there, that they had 2 million kidneys they found, just on one day of Pesach. And so the Kohanim are very busy. So on this day, more than any other day, the sin that occurred with the decimation of all the Kohanim of the city of Noiv is sort of a stark reminder of what Shaul did. So what happened when Sanhedrin was there? This is now many years later. This was the last day. So the sin of what happened in the city of Noiv would be a punishment not only to Shaul, but also to the entire Klal Yisrael at that time for not, protesting. And that the punishment for that sin lingered on for many, many years. And this particular day, when Sanhedrin came, was the very last day. Erev Pesach was the last day for the punishment of the sin. So the stargazer went and told Sanhedrin, if you go today and try to conquer Yerushalayim, you will succeed. If you don't take advantage of the day, you will not succeed. So Urcha, the road, the boil is Guya Basariyam, and only would take 10 days to travel. Saga miraculously, he was able to traverse that in 1 day. Kimatu Yerushalayim, when they came to Yerushalayim, Shadilei, so they placed underneath Sanhedrin Bistarki, they placed on him a whole bunch of mats, and they raised it higher and higher and higher. Ad the Solik, the Yosef Eloye, that he was able to sit somehow or another above Yerushalayim, above the wall. Ad the Chazi L'Yerushalayim, he had a bird's eye view of the entire Yerushalayim. And Kichazia, when he looked, it appeared to him, Izutabeinu, the Yerushalayim was so tiny, so small. Amar, he said, Hello, he captured Yerushalayim. Is this the entire city of Yerushalayim? The Allah Agishit Kol Misharaisai, that on this thing here, I had to organize all my soldiers and all my armed people. The Allah Kafshi Kol Medinasa, and because of this, I went ahead and conquered so many countries. This country is weaker and smaller than any other country that I attacked and I conquered and I was successful. Allah, with my strength in my hand, I beat every country, and this is Yerushalayim. Why was I so intimidated by Yerushalayim? He stood there and he shook with his head. He waved with his hands. Al Tur Beis Mikdoshim the Betzion, and he waved it there on the base of Mikdosh, the mountain, the Temple Mount. Ba'al Ezrotin Yerushalayim, and the courtyards of Yerushalayim. Amri, he said to him, you know what? They said, let's wait here. Let's take a rest. So they said to him, let's go and attack. Let's get it out of the way. Amalu, he said to them, Tamian, we're also tired. Wait till the day's over, we'll go tomorrow. Lamacha, we'll do it tomorrow. Anyway, so isolate, he said tomorrow. Sorry, he said to them tomorrow. Isolate one of you to bring to me Gome Harag. I want each one of you to bring me a brick from the wall of the city. If each soldier, he had so many soldiers there, if each one would take one brick away, it won't be a wall left. Miyad, so that night, immediately, that night, so they all went to rest. Malach Hashem, miraculously, he didn't listen to the Kaldoy. This Malach came out, the Yach Machna Asher, and struck in this camp. Meya v'shmeinim v'chamisha elef, 185,000 soldiers. Vayashkimu ba'boiker, they woke up in the morning, v'nikulam pegorim mason. The fact that it says they woke up in the morning means that there were some survivors. Otherwise, who woke up in the morning? As the Gemara will discuss soon, who the survivors are. This is where the saying of people is Pastina, bottle dinner. Delay justice.
Could somebody turn off their place? Could somebody turn off their microphone?
We're at Daf Tzadik Hey.
What page?
Daf Tzadik Hey Amar Aleph. Somebody can tell them where it is. Okay, everyone ready? So it says here, the Yishbi, and Yishbi was a Noiv. Yishbi was a Noiv, Ashi Belidi Harpa. Harpa is Arpa from the story of Rus. And one of his sons was Yishbi and Goliath. And Yishbi there was in the city of Noiv, Mishkal Kinoi. And the armor that he was wearing is Sholish Meish Mishkal Nechoshes. It weighed 300 shkolim of copper. V'hu chager chadasha, and he went over here and he wrapped around himself, girded himself a brand new piece of armor. And he said, "I'm going to kill David." My v'yishbi b'noiv. What's that to do with noiv? Ish sheba al iske noiv. He's coming to punish David. And why was he able to do that is because of what happened in Noiv, and David was responsible. Hashem said that to David. Until how much longer does the sin that you committed here in the city of Noiv will have to be hidden in your hands? The city of Noiv, the city of Kainim was destroyed. And because of you, not only, sorry, because of you, the city of Noiv was destroyed. Because of you, Doigadami lost the share in the world to come. And because of you, Shalom Melech and his 3 children died. Now, before we go further, so David HaMelech was being blamed for what happened in Noiv. David didn't do anything. So the Magen Avram in Shulchan Aruch brings the Be'er Sheva. The Magen Avram Shulchan Aruch brings the Be'er Sheva. And the Be'er Sheva says, from here I make a new ruling. If you send someone to, and you pay someone to go and drive or freight a product to some other country, to some other city, and there's a road accident, and the person dies on the way, you are responsible. Because just like David HaMelech was responsible for what happened in Noiv, he didn't do it, Shalom Melech did it. But because he was involved, he's responsible. So if you send someone to them, and you pay someone to do something for you, and they get hurt, you are responsible. If they work for you, wherever, even they're traveling, they're responsible. You're responsible. However, there's one the Earl Achronim came out and disagreed, and he said there's a big difference between whether you pay someone or they do it. If you do it, they sent them. You sent them. If you pay someone money, then that person takes responsibility totally. You're totally not responsible for whatever happens there. But if you don't pay them, they're doing you a favor, then you are responsible. And there's a big argument. The problem only is, it says in the Sfarim that David HaMelech actually was at fault here. Why is Eibishter holding David HaMelech at fault? Because David HaMelech, when he went there, he told Achimelech that King Shaul sent me. So Achimelech had no way of knowing that he was harboring, a fugitive. and he therefore gave him bread and water. Had he known that David HaMelech was, fleeing from Shaul HaMelech, who said that they would have harbored him? So therefore, in this case, David HaMelech misled them, and that's why he has to shoulder some of the responsibility. Mash'ain came in a normal case when you send somebody to do something for you, you maybe not responsible at all. Even if you sent them just normally, he's doing you a favor. Maybe you're not responsible. Here, David HaMelech misled them. So it's anyway, big machlek is Allah. Then the Gemara continues. So Hashem said to him, David, I'll give you a choice. You choose. He said to him, if you want, I can decimate all your children. You won't have any children left. Or you personally will be given over in the hands of an enemy and you will suffer. Why won't my children be affected? I'm happy to accept the punishment. One day, Nafik Lishkar Bazoy. One day he went out to go hunting. And very interesting, in Shulchan Aruch, is a Jew allowed to go hunting? In Shulchan Aruch, in Hilchas Aruchaim, in Hilchas Brachas, in Siman Reish Chav Gimel, it talks about their about new clothes in Mikdash Shechiyanu, and it says over there, the Ramah says there is a minig Yisrael. In Yiddish, they say when you buy something, new clothes or suit, they would say, "Zerais gesundheit." You should tear it in a good way. Take away the Ein Hara. So the Ramah says that there are those who say that you're not allowed to say that if somebody buys leather shoes, because if you tell them to tear it, in a good way, that means you have to buy another pair of shoes, and that means you have to kill another animal, and you're not allowed to kill animals even to have a pair of shoes. The Ramah says, I think there's no merit to this opinion, but nevertheless, he says there are people who hold that. In Hilchas Shabbos, the Shin Zayin, it says if somebody goes hunting with a dog, using dogs, it's a terrible thing, and it says that it's called a Moshev Leitzim, and so on. The Noida Yehuda was asked, "Are you allowed to go hunting? Is a Jew allowed to go hunting?" There was a very rich man called, I think, Eifenheim. He owned large tracts of land, big forests, and he asked the Noida Yehuda if he was allowed to go hunting. Is a Jew allowed to go just for the game of hunting? And he said, "There's no aveira in it. There's no tzar balachayim. You kill the animal and so on and so forth." However, he says the only hunters we know in the Torah was Nimrod and Esav, and it's not a Jewish thing to do. But right here we have that David HaMelech went hunting, and Samuel went for a sport. Sorry,
yeah. It's goyish.
But here's David HaMelech. He went hunting. How do you explain that? Anyway, I don't know. Also, Sutton came along the Sutton and made believe it was a deer. So he went and shot an arrow, but he didn't hit the deer. And so he kept on chasing after the deer, and eventually he ended up no longer in Eretz Yisrael. He was in the land of Plishtim. The Chazia Yishbi B'Noiv, when Yishbi, sitting in the city of Noiv, but before we said on account of Noiv, when he saw David HaMelech, I recognize him. I know he's the one who killed Goliath, my brother. Kopsei, he tied him up, Kamotya, and he bent him over, and he placed him underneath an olive press, and he was going to sit on it and crush David HaMelech. A miracle happened, and suddenly the ground underneath became soft, and David HaMelech sank into the ground, so he wasn't hard pressed by Yishbi. And this is what it says in Pasuk, Tarchiv Tzadi Tachtoi, that you made wider my step underneath, V'loi Mo'adu Karsulai. And my ankles there didn't give way. That day was a Panya de Maila Shabbat. That day was Erev Shabbos, Friday. Have Avishai ben Tzruya, this is Yoav's brother. Have Kochayev Reisha, he was rinsing his head, Bedalad and washing his hair, and he was Bedalad Garbi Demai, with 4 barrels of water. And in Shulchan Aruch it says this is the basis that not only Ezra says that you have to take a shower Erev Shabbos, and this is the basis that you also have to wash your hair. and because from Avisha ben Tzuya. Chazina, he saw kasmidama. Suddenly he saw little traces of blood. Ikadami, others say, Asa Yoina came a dove, Itrav Kameh. It came a dove and started to bang in front of him. And Omar, Knesset, he said to himself, Knesset Yisrael, Yoinim Sila. The Yidden are compared to a dove. Shnemar, it says in the Pasuk, Kan Yoinenech Bekesef, that the wings of a dove are covered with silver. Shmam and Dove Malchus Betzara. He decided it must be a message that Dove Malchus is Betzara Shori, he's resting in Tsar. Now the question is, why isn't this called nichush? You're not allowed to make, making signs or deer crosses your path. How in the world did Avisha ben Tzuya then use this as a sign? One of the reasons given is there's a difference when you go looking, for things, or it just happened, it came by your way. But also, there's a difference between a siman tov and then a nichush. Siman tov it's a good omen. You do it anyway. But you say, it's a good sign that they'll succeed. But even if you wouldn't be the sign, you would still go ahead and do it. So he said that maybe David is in trouble. Also, basically, he went to David's house to check it out. He couldn't find it. He said, Tanam, we learned, so you're not allowed to ride on the horse of a king. When you're your throne. Use a scepter of Bishas, a sakana. What about now is the time of sakana? Because maybe he's been kidnapped or something. Also, Shol Midrash, he went and asked the base of Medrash. They said to him, Bishas sakana shapadam. He said, sakana, you're allowed to. Rachve, he went riding Leparda. He took his mule. It seems that mules run fast. There is a problem because there's an Issa to ride a mule. A mule is climb, and you're not allowed to ride on climb. A donkey is different, but a mule you're not allowed to ride on. And but I guess they say for Pikuach
Why did you
Nefesh,
say you can't? Why can't you ride a mule? Did you say?
Yerushalmi says you're not allowed to ride on a mule because it's climb.
It's a combination of a horse and
a donkey.
Yeah.
So anyway, but here's I guess a case of pikuach nefesh. Come, v'azal he went v'kaftzule are, and miraculously he covered the distance in a very short time. Bahade de kamazge, and as he got arrived, he saw Orpe, the mother of Yishbi, the Habinava. He saw the mother of that she was weaving and spinning thread and so on, and she was weaving the kichazisa. When she saw him, pilcha, she went ahead and she I guess bit of part of the needle that she was using, and sharza alaya, she threw it. I guess it was a pointy edge now. She threw it on Yishbi. Savrul Mikta, she wanted to kill him. So she said, my young guy there, Isili, do me a favor. Isili Pelach. I dropped that. Can you please do me a favor? Pick it up. And so what he did was, what she did, he took the thing and he pierced her head, put it right through her brain, her skull. But Kotla and killed her. So imagine, just before she was, married to Naomi's son, and now she turned out to be a mother of all these gangsters. Kad Chazi Yishbi, when Yishbi saw Benoy, when Yishbi saw Benoy, Omri said, Hashna Vitem. When he saw Avisha coming, he said, "Oy, there's two of them now, the Kotile, and now they're going to kill me." So what he did was, is Poske LeDavid Leili, he picked up David Melech, and he tossed them up in the air, the Dutch Lerumchen, he put a sword on the ground, so David will fall down on the sword and he will die. He said, he will fall on the sword and he will die. Now, the obvious question is, why didn't you just strangle David HaMelech? He's much stronger than David. Why throw him in the air? So one of the reasons given is, when he saw that David wasn't crushed under that olive press, he decided that David must be a magician. And magic, if you remember the Gemara we learned a long time with the Mems, that magicians they get their power from the earth, from the dirt, from sand. So what he did was he was scared that David Melech was a magician and he won't be able to overcome David Melech. So he tossed him in the air, so David Melech shouldn't have any power. Just like Shimon Meshatach, the lady guys picked up all of those witches from the ground. Others say he didn't want to kill him directly. He wanted to just be a groma. By throwing him up in the air, if he falls on the sword, he won't be charged with murder because he only caused it to happen. But he was wrong, because by goyim, groma doesn't make a difference. It's still chayv. Amar Avishai Shem. Avishai said some shame from Sefer Yetzirah, and Ukbi LeDavid Shma'il. David then is sort of suspended in midair, and he saved him. So you want to ask a question, namely you, why couldn't David do the same thing and say the shame? And Gemara says it, Ein Chavush Matir Atvesurim. Somebody who's a prisoner cannot release themselves from prison. Rashi says they couldn't concentrate. But in Bracha, that Hele Beis, we had Rabbi Yechim Ben Zakkai, lost all of his children, and he gave all these brachas and everything else. Over there we say simply that if you're in jail, that means it's like a bad Ein Horef against you, and you don't have the power to overcome that, if it's personally against you. Amalei said, David said to my boys, what are we doing here? Sorry, he asked David Melech, what are you doing here? Amalei, why are you captured? How can it be? Amalei, Hashem said, he told him the conversation that he had. I chose that I should be taken over by an enemy. Amalei, swap around your davening. Swap it around. Bar Broch Kira Lisbon. Let your grandson suffer a little bit and sell wax to sustain themselves. But you're the king. You shouldn't be in pain. He said to him, if so, help me out. Helped him out. Helped him out. They davened together. Omar Avishai Shem, and then Avishai had another time of shame, and he came down on the ground. Now, usually he was a very strong guy like Goliath, chased after them. Kimota Kuvi, they came to the town of Kuvi, Amri, they said, Kumbe, we have to stand up to him because he'll chase after us. Eventually he'll catch up with us and kill us. Kimota Beitrei, when they came to the town of Beitrei, Amri, they said to themselves, how in the world are we going to be able to overcome Yishbi? Beitrei, Guri, and Kotlu, can two cubs conquer a lion? So they said, Zil ishtakach. So they said, yeah, it's sort of a strategy. He turned around to Yishbi and he said, Zil ishtakach l'or b'imach. You want to find your mother? She is bekivra. She's found in a grave because I killed her. As soon as he heard that about the name of his mother, what happened? He lost his strength. The strength ebbed, the kotle, and that's how they were able to kill him. Hainu d'chsib. And this is what it said in the pasuk. David Melech's people said to him, "You can no longer go out to war." Because we don't want to extinguish. We don't take any more chances, any risks that somebody like Yishbi will come and take you over. We learned. There were three people that covered them or others. The three people that they traveled, and the distance became very short. Eliezer, Eved Avram, Yaakov Avinu, and Avishai ben Tzruya. Well, Avishai ben Tzruya, we just told the story. Eliezer Avram the Chsiv says, and I came today. He said to Eliezer said to Lavan, I arrived today. Remember that I left today and I arrived today. Obviously came today, but he means to say is I left today and I arrived today, as if to say there's a sign from above that this is the right shidduch. That Rivka is the right shidduch for Yitzchak. Yaakov Avinu, what's the story of Yaakov Avinu? See, it says, Yaakov be'eshava. Yaakov left be'eshava. Vayelech he went to Charan. Uksiv, and then it says, Vayifka b'makom. He encountered this place. Vayolan sham, and he went to lie there. Ki bo Hashemesh, because the sun set. And then Kimoto l'Charan. So what happened was as follows: Kimoto l'Charan, when he arrived, because it sounds like he already arrived at Charan. It says Vayetzi Yaakov Vayelech Charana. It sounds like he arrived at Charan, and then it says Vayivka b'makom. Sounds like he did not arrive to Charan yet. He's still traveling. So how can that be? So we learn out from here that he arrived to Charan and then he went right back. Why did he go back? Because Kimoto l'Charan Amar, he said to himself, Efsher avarti al mokum shispalo b'avoisai. I passed over the place, Bethel, where my ancestors Avram Yitzchak davened, but ani lo yispalalti bo, and I didn't daven. Now Rashi says interesting that Avram we know davened there because it says Vayatik Misham, he was basically he left, and Rashi says Yitzchak, I cannot find a pasuk. It's an expression. Yitzchak ein mikra b'yadi. Rashi says I cannot find a pasuk anywhere where it says that Yitzchak actually davened in Beit El. Anyway, the Gemara continues. So then he wanted to go back. Kivan to go back to Beit El. Kivan the moment he thought to himself, okay, I'm going back. Immediately he arrived there before he knew it. Miyad, Vayivka b'mochav. That's what it says. Vayivka b'mochav. He encountered the place, but without realizing it, suddenly he was there. You've got also an expression of davening. It says, he said that you should not daven for these people, and that you shouldn't go ahead and sing and cry for them or sing for them. And what does tifkabi mean? Do not in any way daven on their behalf. So we see the word tifka means davening. This is what Yirmiyah is saying about Eden at this time. And he rested there, Kivo Hashem, in the sunset. The sunset. After he davened, he wanted, what happened there? Why did the sun suddenly set? Because after he finished davening, he wanted to go back to Haran. This tzaddik arrived at my home. He'll just leave, let him stay overnight. The sun set earlier than it was supposed to. It says that Yizrach loy Hashemesh. It says in the pasuk that when he had the struggle with the sour of Esav, it says that and then he dislocated his hip. It says by Yizrach loy Hashemesh, that the sun shined for him. So the obvious question is, or the sun only shined to him? The sun shines for everybody. It says Shemesh sheba ba'avuray zorcha ba'avuray. No, that the sun actually came for him. The sun actually came for him. In other words, it stayed longer so that he can be cured. As we'll see later, that the sun therefore stayed longer. First it set, and then later on when he got sick, it stayed longer. The hours that it set early, it stayed longer so that he can have be healed. How do we know that David HaMelech's children? So what happened was he opted now that his children should suffer rather than him. And how do we know that his children actually were destroyed? The Chesiv says it says that this woman Asalia was a Russia. Aim Achazio, the mother of Achazio, Rasa, she saw Kimei's Bena, she saw that her son died, and Achazio died. She stood up, she went and destroyed and killed every single member of the household, and one child was taken away and hidden. Yoash was taken and hidden. Yoash himself was a good king for a while, till later on he became bad. But Yoash was taken away and hidden. And Yoash is one kid was taken away, Yoash, and that's sort of how the Beis David continued. So the Gemara asked the question. The Abisha said, "I'll destroy all your children," but Yoash survived. So not all the children was killed. Well, Yoash survived. When they destroyed the city of Noiv, one Kohen remained alive. Achimelech had a son of Yosser, and he survived. And therefore, in because of that, one member of David's house is right, because it says, "Vayimoled ben Echel Achimelech," one son to Achimelech was spared. Ben Achitov, his name is Yosef. If Yosef would not have survived to Achimelech, nobody would remain in the house of David. There's actually a big machlekes in the Mefarshim if who Yoash was. Was he a son of Shlomo HaMelech, and therefore the house of David and Mashiach and everything else continues? Or was he actually a son of Nasan, a different son of David HaMelech, and there's nobody left from Shlomo HaMelech's children, and Mashiach ben David does not come from Shlomo, but from Nasan. And because who is this Yoash? Interesting discussion.
Nasan was a Novi.
But he also had a son. He had a son.
How does that connect with David?
David had many sons. Yeah. I think they say it's Nasan, the son of David, but it might be from a different son of David.
Okay.
Maybe I'm mixing up the name. But the point is that those who argue, Seder Doris says that there was nobody left from Shlomo HaMelech's descendants. They all died. And Yoash did not come from Shlomo HaMelech. He came from one of his other sons.
Okay.
So, why I think it's Nasan, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a different name. Getting back to Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin, descended here on Yerushalayim. But Arboim, the Chamisha Elef, this is the breakdown. He had 185,000 people. This is the breakdown. Arboim, the Chamisha Elef b'nei Malachim. First of all, he had 45,000 princes that he captured from other countries. 45,000. Yoishim B'Krein Shazar, they sat in these golden chariots. V'imoyen, and with them were Shigloines v'Zainis, princesses and Zainis, harlots. Then Uvishmoinim Elad Geboidim. Then he had another 80,000 Levushe Shirya and Klippa. They all dressed in armor. And then Uvishishim Elad Achuzei Cherev, another 60,000 holding out the swords. Rotzim Lefanov, running before him. And all of this, you have quite a bit of here. And Bahashar Parashat, they had ordinary soldiers. And you add them all up, it's 185,000. The Chain Bo al Avram, and this is similarly what they came by Avram with the four kings. V'chein Bo al Avram, sorry, V'chein Asidin Lovim Gog and Magog, and similarly by Gog and Magog with these massive armies. The Masnita Tana in Abraisa we learned Oidech Machaneu, that the camp, the army that he brought to attack Yerushalayim was Arba Meyas Parsi, was long 400 Parsi. Rachav Tzavar Susab Aboyim Parsi. If you lined up all the horses together and you measure the width, it was 40 parsa. Remember that a parsa is 4 mil. A parsa is 4 mil, and well, you work it out. So it's 40. A parsa is like 4 kilometers. So 40 kilometers, 160 kilometers wide. We do have, Tosfos says that a number of numbers that the Gemara uses that are sort of a little bit of hyperbole, like the number 60, the number 300. The Gemara, I think, is
that Abamay's parsa. That's used many times. Like, doesn't it say that when they put a chazer on the wall of Yerushalayim, the earth trembled the same?
It says the whole Eretz Yisrael 40 parsa, but 40 parsa trembled.
Yeah.
But the Gemara is trying to emphasize the miracle that happened in Sanhedrin, that they all perished that night, Pesach night, is just to give you an idea of the magnitude of the miracle. Look how many soldiers they had. We definitely had 185,000, says so in Tanakh. But everything else is trying to emphasize it's not only the number, but they were very strong and mighty, because he was the emperor of the entire world, civilized world at that time. And then it says, Tach Machaneu. Now, this number here is going to make you fall asleep. How big was his army in total? We said 185,000. They were the officers. How big was the army? Mosayim v'shishim riboy alafim. 2.6 billion. 2.6 billion soldiers. Chaser chad. Chaser chad. I remember in the late 60s when I was in school and we were learning current events, the issue at that time was not climate change or anything else. At the time was overpopulation. And they had pictures then of people standing on top of people because there would be no room in the world for everybody to live. The world population then, I think, was like 3 billion. And there would be enough food and so on and so forth. And yet he had an army that was equal to the entire world population at that time. So again, I guess it must be emphasizing the magnitude of the miracle.
It's actually
anyway. Then it says
it's 2.6 million, not billion.
No, billion. Shishim riboy is 600,000, right?
Shishim riboy
60 times 10,000 is 600,000. Times that by alafim.
1,000.
What's 600,000 times 1,000?
Okay, all right.
Okay. Anyway, and then chosachad -1 is by ask. What does it mean -1? Chosachad, either 1/10,000 is missing. Chosachad over 1,000 missing. Or chosameya or 100 or chosachad or 1 teku. It says in the Sfarim, what in the world is the relevance of that? They say the relevance is when you have a contract and you write on it a number, let's say 255,000 -1. What does -1 mean? -1 unit, -1, 10 place, -100, -1,000. So the same question we have here can be used on any contract. Take, we remain with the question. Tana, we learned to give a further idea of how large the army was and how many troops he had and horses and so on. We learned that when they crossed the river, so the Shainim, the first group of soldiers over the Beshechet had to swim across the river. So remember, it says the Cholaf be Yehuda. It says that they went across Yehuda Shetef, and they had to swim across and pass through Ba'avar. And so in the next group of horses, already so much water was taken out of the river that Avru became, the horses were able to just cross. Okay, there was water still till their necks, but they were able to just walk across. Remember, it says, Ad Savar Yagiu, that only that the water reached to the neck. Acharenim, the third group of horses, Helu Afuraglen, there's no water left. They had kicked up sand. They couldn't find any water. Remember, it says in the pasuk, "Ani karti v'shasisi mayim." It says I had to dig over there to find all kinds of sources of water, and I drank water. So that's how great the army was. So it says, "Vayetze malach Hashem vayakeh b'machna Asher." But it says, what are you talking about? You tell me there were billions. It says clearly in the pasuk, the malach came, hit the camp of Asher, meya ushmayni v'chamisha elef, 185,000. Vayashkim abayker, and they woke up in the morning. They all died. So what did you tell me there were billions? This is just the officers. Under each officer, there were thousands of soldiers. I proved to you. See what it says, the mashman of Rosen, that what became lean, mashman of the fat. In other words, the officer is the one who are more skilled. The fat ones among them. Now there's a big machlekes in the Mefarshim when it says they all died. What about the ordinary soldiers? They all survived. Some say they all survived. They all went home. Others say that everybody died, not just these officers. Even though we say 185,000, it just talks about the officers, but all the soldiers died. They can prove you to see what it says. Vayishlach Hashem malach. Says the pasuk, Hashem sent them a malach, and vayikcha kol gibur chayil v'nogid, and he went ahead and he killed out every single strong person and every officer, the sarba machne, and every leader in the camp. Vayave beisel lekov, and they came to the Sanhedrin went back to the base of the Lekov, and what happened there was that his own children, those who came from him, he killed him. We'll soon see what happened. His own children ended up killing Sanhedrin. Shma Mino. So from here we see a clear raya that the 185,000 was merely the officers. Says the Gemara. Because we see already 185,000 were killed, and yet there were more people there because they killed Sanhedrin. So obviously not everybody was killed, only the officers were killed. We'll soon see.
He was killed. Sanhedrin was killed by his kids.
We'll soon see the story, what happened there, yes.
Yeah, and with those numbers, 60,000 times 1,000?
60,000 times 1,000, it says 260, and 600,000 times 1,000. When so it says there before. Shishim ribu is 600,000. Alofim. Time multiply that by 1,000. That's 600 million. And Masayim therefore means 200, which is here, which we make it to 2 billion. 2,600,000. 600 million. Now, how exactly were they all killed? How did they all die? All we know is the Malach was sent, but what did the Malach do? How did he destroy the army of Sanhedrin? He hit them by hand. It says, Eden saw this mighty hand. It says, Hayad, the hand that will be used again. That once again will be used against Sanhedrin. Rabbi Yeshua says, it's merely a finger. Remember, it says, this is the famous finger of Hashem. He etzba shasida leparm Sanhedrin. This is the finger that eventually will also punish Sanhedrin. Rabbi Lezer, benoy shel Rabbi Yisrael Glili, Omer Gabriel. Hashem said to Gabriel, tell me, Magolcha Natusha is your what do you call it? The sickle? Is it stretched out? Is it ready? Amal fun of Rebbeinu Shalom. Eivishter. The Tusha by Medivre has been waiting for this moment since creation. It says, it says because of these out of the swords, Nadaru, they will be scattered away. That Gemala Gavriel, we know we're learning Marachul that every blade of grass has a mazel that makes it grow. There's a Malach. Gavriel makes all the grass grow. So he says here, that time, Zman Bishul Peidasoya. That time was the time when the fruits had to be ripe. So Gabriel was down there anyway, taking care of the fruits. I'm not going to about Gabriel, because at the Yetzel Vashel Peidas, do me a favor, Gabriel, when you're going out there and you're going to make sure that the Peidas are ripe, because Gabriel is the Malach of fire. So therefore, it's like the sun. You make the Peidas ripe. He's Zokilim, do me a favor, take care of them as well. In other words, each one is making as how trivial it was, how simple it was for Hashem to destroy all of them. Shnemer, it says, Mida Abra, he says there, by the way, when you're passing through, Yikach Eschem, take them with you. Ki baboike yaver bayom ubalayla. That you pass through every single day in the morning and night. V'hoya rak zeva'ah, and they should shudder and be scared. Hey, Mishmo, those don't understand what's going on. So he's saying, Gabriel, why are you doing your thing anyway? Go ahead and kill them out. Amar Papa. Now Papa said, this is what people say. People say that, why are you going out there and you're passing by Baal Baba, your arch enemy? Ishtama, make sure they know that you exist. So in other words, why are you doing whatever you're doing? Kill them all out. The Chaytman Noshabem. He just blew, just like when a person Hashem blew, infused us in the neshama. So now blow again and take away the neshama. Umeisa they died. Remember it says the Ganoshabem v'Yovshu. He blew into them and they dried up. They died. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Kapayim Sipaglem. He actually used two hands and smacked, and they all died. Amazing, and they died. Shenemar, because it says in Pasuk, the Gamani Akaisi, the Gamani Ake. Kape, I'll smack one hand against the other. I'll calm down my anger. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha says, Oznaim Gilalem. You know what happened? Nothing to do with any of that. Hashem gave them the capacity to listen. Vishamu Shira, and they heard the song. They heard the Malachim sing. V'Mesu, and they all died from that. Shenemar, because it says in Pasuk, from being so elevated, is Navutzu Goyim. That all the goyim was scattered. What do you mean elevated? From listening to the malachim singing. So the common now we know for sure that some people were left to survive. How many were left? Rav Omar Asara, only 10. So this is why some people say that the entire army was decimated. Others say no, the rest of the army went home. It was just the officers. Amongst the officers, how many survived? So Rav says 10. How do I know 10? Shenemar, because it says in Pasuk, Vishar Eitziara, the rest of the trees of his forest, Mispar Yiyu, will be only a certain amount, not too many. The Na Yichtavim, and a young child can write them down. Now, which letter is the easiest letter for a young child to write? The letter Yud, because it's just a dot. 10. So therefore, it must be that there were 10 survivors in total, including Sanhedrin. Shmuel says Tisha, with a total of 9. Shenemar, because it says in Pasuk, V'nisha by Eilis, and there will be left there. Eilis are grapes, small grapes. Kenoikev Zayis, just like when somebody cuts off olives. Shnayim Shloisha Gagarim B'Roishamir, you leave 2 or 3 grapes on top of the tree, and Arboa Chamisha B'Sifa, and 4 or 5 on the branches. So if you add 4 plus 5, you have a total of 9. And we don't count the very top of the tree, because those are the top officers, maybe they all died. No, I say you add them all up, the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5, you get 14. Remember it says, Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't have any pasuk, but I believe that there are only 5 survivors. On what basis? Who were they, first of all? Sanhedrin, we know Sanhedrin survived. Ushnei Bonav, and 2 of his sons. Then we know Nebuchadnezzar and Nebuzradan. I have no idea why every time in the Gemara, the name Nebuchadnezzar is separated into 2 parts, Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuzradan, even though we read it as one word, and it's written everywhere else as one word. I don't know why. Nebuzradan, how do I know Nebuzradan? Gemara. I know Nebuzradan, we'll soon see in the Gemara tomorrow who this Nebuzradan was. He was the butcher the executioner of Sanhedrin. But we'll see amazing how at the end of the whole story, he became Jewish, and he converted. And Nebuchadnezzar was working for Sanhedrin, and he survived. The Chesiv, how do I know Nebuchadnezzar survived? I know he was even part of the story, because it says when Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, we learned a few days ago, were saved from the furnace, and the Malach came Malach Gabriel came to save them, and Malach Gabriel was behind them. Nebuchadnezzar said, he said in the pasuk the following. He says, "V'rava derivoi domi lebaraloyin." I saw this fourth person there look like a malach. He said, "I saw them look like a malach." Vilav the chazia. If he never saw a malach in his life, now the other, how would we know that this looks like a malach? Must be that he survived and he heard the malachim there, and they still survived. Says the Gemara, Sanhedrin v'shnei bonov. How do you know Sanhedrin and his two sons survived? But this is now the story how we know Sanhedrin was killed by his own sons. The Chsiv, it says, he who mishtachve, he was bowing down. He was bowing down. Base Nisrach Elokov. He's bowing down as idol worship, and the house of Nisrach. What's the house of Nisrach? We'll see what happened there. Melech v'Shadatzer bonov hikeya b'chorev, and his two sons, Adra Melech and Sharatzer, his sons killed him. So we know that they survived. Sanhedrin and his two sons survived. Nebuchadnezzar survived, and Nebuzaradan. So it's a total of 5. That's Rabbi Yechon. Omer Rabbavu said, Il mole mikra kosev, if not for the fact that the following pasuk was written, Ef Shalom, I never would have said it. See, it says the pasuk as follows. On that day, Yigalach Hashem betar, Hashem is going, Hashem, which really is a malach, is going to shave betar haschira with a rented shaver. The Sanheriv's beard is going to be shaved off. It's the first known person that we know shaved his beard. The Evre Nahar, when he crossed the Yam, except the Mitzvah and all that had to shave, or the Kohanim when they were in the inauguration.
We know from David that he shaved, remember? This is Mesa with the soldiers. He shaves half their beards.
You're right.
It's a busher for them.
Yeah,
so he tells them stay until they grow back.
Yep, you're right. But Avri Nor, so that the Malach came and shaved the rented thing. The Avri Nor, and the other side of the Nor, the Melech Asher, by the king of Asher, Saroish, his head, his hair, the Sarah Raglaim, the hair on his legs, the Gamas Hazakin, and also the beard, Tispe, also the beard will be finally destroyed. What story here? Asa Kuchibruchu, Hashem came, which means a Malach. The Admalek Gabrasov, it appeared to him, or rather say he was in a dream. The Admalek and appeared to him Gabrasov, like an old man. Amalei, and he said to him, let me ask you, Sanhedrin, now that you're fleeing for your life, where are you going to go to the other neighboring countries, east and west? And you kidnapped all their children, and they're all killed. My what are you going to say in your defense? Amalei said, he said to him, what am I going to say? I'm the guy, I'm scared. What am I supposed to do? Amalei talked about himself in third person. Amalei, what do you want me to do? Amalei, I'll tell you what you should do. Zilgo, v'shani nafchach, disguise yourself. So he said, "B'may shani, how am I going to disguise myself?" Amalei zil aisili mispara, go ahead and bring me a shaver. The igazyach, I was going to shave you, so you look different. So I'm going to go shave you. He said to him, "Hey, I said, where am I get a shaver? I'm running for my life here. Where am I going to have a shaver?" Amalei said to him, "You know what? Ul lahu beisa, go into that house, and bring it." Ozli went, Ashkechinu, and he found the shaver. Also, Malach Yashar, Kedim Malachim, the Eden Maleke Gabriel also appeared like a barber or a person. They come Tachni Kishyasa. So he's going into a house, and there's another Malach in that house, and they were grinding over their date kernels. Amalei Havali Misfara. He said to him, "Give me a shaver." He said to him, or scissors. Amalei. You want a scissor? I'll tell you what to do. First, grind for me a kernel of these seed of these dates, and then I'll give you a scissor. And he went ahead and he ground He went ahead and ground one little amount, whatever the amount is, of these kernels. The Yavalem is part. Then he gave him a scissor. Okay, you can have a scissor and go ahead and shave. The problem was by the time he finished his job and he had the scissor, it became dark. And the barber, the other malach, couldn't shave him because it's dark. So Sanhedrin said, you know what? Go ahead. So the malach said to Sanhedrin, you got to bring a fire. I can't see what I'm doing. Ozli went, and he brought a fire, but the fire was very weak and very faint. So he started to blow on the fire to make it stronger. But how did the konofachle, while he was blowing, suddenly a fire jumped onto his beard and caught into fire. Ozil Gazil. So he went ahead and he shaved his head and his beard. Amru This said the possible Games Hazakat Tispa, the beard will be destroyed. Amra Papa said, Heinam, she do people say, if a little what do you call it, a little fire, if you burn a little bit of his beard and he's all right with it, then they make a big fire in his beard, and you'll never stop being happy when you see that. Ozil, just finish the story here. Ozil went, Sanhedrin went. Somehow or another, he recognized the board from Noach's Ark. Don't know how he recognized this from Noach's Ark, but he recognized the board. Omar, he said, this board came from that Hashem told Noach to build a ship, and this is what rescued Noach and his family from the flood. Omar, he said, he turned to the board. He thought the board had some magical powers. Omar, he said to the board, if I'm going to go now and travel and I'm going to win, I'm going to take two of my sons and I'll bring them up to you as a human sacrifice. Shamu b'noi, his two sons overheard their father offering their lives as a sacrifice. They katlu and they killed their father Sanhedrin. And Hainu l'chsiv, and this is what it says in Pasuk, by he who mishtachve, it says in the Pasuk that he bent down base Nisrach Elohov. He went back down in the house of Avodah Zarah of Nisrach, and Nisrach is that Neser, so the board. This is the story of the board. As a result of this, they killed him, Sanhedrin, outright. That's the story of Sanhedrin. Continue tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. Have a good